Here is News for the Soul.
Hear all of our previously aired broadcasts of News for the Soul online at newsforthesoul.com. Now let's get back to the show.
And it's time now to continue our journey with the Sound Lady. Kathleen is here to enlighten us on the vast and intriguing world of human bioacoustics. Let's bring her on and get things started. Kathleen, do we have you on the board?
Yes, Nicole, I'm here with bells on.
Which seems very appropriate. Probably literal.
Today I'd like to start to delve into some sacred sound, harmonics, and pretty much the power of sacred sound altogether. We're going to do a couple of meditations. Some are going to be with sound, some are going to be with breath, because you can't make sound without the breath. So that's what I'd like to talk about today. And hopefully, after we do a couple of these meditations, the idea is for people to sort of call in and tell us what your experiences were, if you'd be willing to share that. So for those people who are listening, it might be good to get a piece of paper, something to write on, so that when we're going through these different meditations of the different notes, you can keep little notes for yourself as to how you reacted or responded to the sounds.
So what would be good to do at the beginning before we dive in anywhere? This is still very, very new for everyone. So let's get you to do the overview of what it is you're doing and talking about before we go there.
All right. Well, as the Sound Lady, I work with sound therapies, and I've been living with my ears for my whole life. My eyes are definitely handicapped, even though I have 20/20 vision, because I really don't pay attention to what I'm looking at. It's much more interesting to me what I'm hearing in the environment. And a couple of different therapies that I work with are human bioacoustics, which is a new emerging science. It's very math-based on the frequencies of sound and how sound expands. But the idea from human bioacoustics is life sounds. So human life sounds. We know that they study bird sounds and frog sounds and dolphin sounds and whale sounds. Well, there actually is a center in Ohio that studies human sounds, the human voice. The concept is that our voice contains frequencies that are biofeedback information to the brain. That there is a connection between the voice, the ear, and the brain that has to do with the homeostasis of the body. And that work is pioneered by Sherry Edwards, and we're going to use today her note correlation chart, which is up on the site now under my show on today's shows. And it shows the notes of the scale, their physical and emotional correlations. Now, this chart is just a real beginning chart. There's much more information about each of the notes, but this is what Sherry gives away for free. So it's what we start with, and it's what I can use to help introduce the concepts of emotional and physical correlations for notes of the scale. So recording your voice with a microphone into a computer gives us all of this biofeedback information to the health of your body, or lack thereof. And I guess the other type of stuff that I do, it really has nothing at all to do with mathematics, and that's the sacred sound intuitive part of me that plays harmonics on my horn and follows the harmonics into the ethers, and I have a grand time meditating that way. This power of sound to make a change in your physicality or in your emotion, in your spirit. I'm sure everyone listening has at one time or another used music to change their mood. Guys will do it if they're getting ready to play a game. They'll put on some real pumped up music to get their adrenaline going. If you want to calm down and meditate, you put on very quiet music that will slow things down in your mind. So it's not foreign for folks to, and it's not a huge leap of the imagination for folks to think that music can change your mood. What is a big leap of faith for most everyone is that sound and frequency can do much more than change your mood. Relax a muscle that's too tight. It can stop a pathogen from expanding in your body. I worked all day yesterday. I had such a cold yesterday, Nicole. I was babysitting for my grandson, and he came down with a cold while I was there. And 2 days later, I had the cold, and I thought, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do the show this week. So what I did was I took my voice print, and I found the pathogen of the cold virus, and I created sounds that would really squelch the energy of the cold virus. And I pretty much had a cold in 1 day yesterday, which meant I went through an entire box, 120 Kleenexes yesterday in 1 day, and today I can breathe and I can talk and I'm ready for the show. So sound can very much change your physicality, your emotions, and your spirit. And today I'd like to just start with some of the basics of sound and how sound expands and some of the basic correlations for each of the notes of the scale, and then play them for you and have you experience that. The Sufi musician, Hazrat Inayat Khan, from his book, The Life of Music, writes, music should be healing. Music should uplift the soul. Music should inspire. There's no better way of getting closer to God, of rising higher toward the spirit, of attaining spiritual perfection than music, if only it is rightly understood. And there's the caveat there, if only it is rightly understood. So the right understanding of the sacred power of sound is something that we're going to delve into today. Jean Beaulieu, who's written many books on sounds and tuning forks, and I knew him 40 years ago when I was starting with this thing. And he was working with multiple personality disorders. He said he had worked with a woman who had 11 documented, personalities, and one personality would come into his office who had a cold. And when she shifted into another personality, the cold would disappear. And he says that we can see similar shifts in patients who have cancer who go into a remission. One day they have cancer, the next day it's gone. So from an energy perspective, remission can take place instantly based on a field shift, based on an energy shift. And when you know what notes trigger what reactions, it's a little easier to make that shift happen. I believe that sound creates a space within which alignment is possible. Sound is the primordial creative source, right? In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us. In the beginning, God said, "Let there be light." It was the saying, it was the sound, the motion, the vibration that created the light. So sound is really the primordial creative force, and it's something that we all at one time knew about and we've all forgotten. It's an ancient technique, and it's also now, with bioacoustics, state-of-the-art technology. So it's got some old in it, it's got some new in it, and I've tried to come at it from both ends. To understand the creative power of sound a little better, we want to look at it from several perspectives. The physics of sound and the symbolism of sound. So from the perspective of the physics of sound, there's a phenomenon called the harmonic series of notes. It defines how sound expands, recreates, and regenerates itself. An octave, which is what we're going to experience today, is the first expansion of that fundamental sound. An octave is the first interval, and an interval in music is simply the space between two notes. So an octave is an interval between two notes. What are harmonics and the harmonic series? Well, in order to go into that, without getting too technical, because I'm sure I could brain you and make your eyes, tired your brain and make your eyes roll by talking about the physics of sound. But the fundamental in the physics of sound is just the lowest note that you can hear. The lowest note in a piece, or the lowest note that you're talking about in music theory, is always the fundamental. And our minds consider the pitch of a complex musical sound to be the pitch of the fundamental. So as an example here, I'm going to sing very quickly. I'm going to stay on the same note, but I'm going to change the vowel sounds with my mouth, and I'm going to sing an E to an oo. And I want you to listen to how the sound changes as I do that. The fundamental doesn't change. The lowest note doesn't change, but because I change the shape of my mouth with different vowels, you can hear different notes pop out. So let's try this. The others, I don't know how this comes across on the radio, or if it comes across at all, but I'm hearing other notes. I'm hoping you are too. I'm going to do it one more time.
We could hear the harmonic overtones, yes.
Could you hear the harmonic overtones? Good. That was my point. So the fundamental didn't change, but the harmonic overtones did, and the quality of the sound changed. These harmonics, they're kind of, I think of them as brother and sister tones of the fundamental. The other frequencies, they are the other frequencies inherent in the musical tone, which are sympathetically activated as the sound is sustained because they are integral multiples of the fundamental. They have a mathematical correlation with the fundamental. I'll use an analogy of a string, right? So a string of a given length held taut at either end will produce a specific tone or frequency when you pluck it, right? So, but if that string is cut in half and plucked, it will sound the same note you just heard, but an octave higher. It vibrates twice as fast as the fundamental, and that's the definition of an octave. It vibrates twice as fast. If you cut it in half again, the sound, the string, the sound, the same note, it'll sound the same note as a fundamental, but in a higher octave that's vibrating 4 times as fast as the fundamental. So I'm just going to walk over to the piano keyboard here, and I'm just going to play some octaves for you. All right, let's start on A. And then if we go up the interval of an octave to the next A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, there's another A. We can go up another octave. A, going up another octave. They all have the same fundamental sound inherent within them. As you get higher, the sound gets a little thinner. As you get lower, the sound gets a little fuller. But they're all the note A. Now, in terms of the symbolism of sound, so that's all like the physics of sound, the idea of the fundamental being the lowest note. Well, I think where that comes from in terms of the symbolism of sound, the fundamental in ancient Chinese is the Wu Qi, the Om, the All. The tendencies of all tone is to seek resolution in the fundamental. It is the place to which all sound returns. It is sacred sound. It's not a particular pitch, everything and every dimension. It's in the space between matter. So as a tone expands, it first recreates itself in the octave above the fundamental. So the interval of an octave, or the space between the top and bottom note, is considered the entirety of a tonal space. All possible sound is contained within an octave. The Greeks called it a diapason, meaning through the hole. And in Chinese, again, it was the Wu Qi. The Wu Qi expands the first harmonic overtone, which is called Tai Chi. Right? The first harmonic, which is created when Wu Qi, the fundamental, divides itself into polarities of yin and yang. It is one becoming two. The space of an octave encompasses the totality of an issue or thing. An octave higher is the higher significance of the qualities of the lower note. Or it's a transition from one cycle to another higher cycle. An octave stands for the ability to build on the past. It's finishing and beginning again. So one becoming two, Wu Qi becoming Tai Chi, yin and yang, the fundamental expanding into yin and yang dualities. That's what the interval of an octave is all about, and it's really vibrating at twice the frequency of the fundamental. So I played you all the different note A's on the piano. So the low note A was vibrating at 110 cycles per second. The next higher octave of A is vibrating at 220 cycles per second. The next octave is 440. And it goes on into infinity, higher and lower. Of course, we as human beings, we have a certain hearing range with our ears here in the third dimension. There's only so much of those octaves that we can hear, but they all exist. Now, before we experience the sound of an octave, it will be helpful to become familiar with the consciousness of the breath. I'm going to play octaves on my horn and my voice together simultaneously because I can't sing an octave. I can't with my voice sing two notes, right? So I'm going to play a note and sustain it, and then I'm going to sing an octave above that note into the horn at the same time. So you get the experience of an octave from a real analog piece of an instrument like the French horn, as opposed to a piano, which is tempered tuning. And I could go into that, but we would get off on a tangent. But the idea is it's just more in tune, it's more harmonious when I do it that way, when it comes to natural harmonics. But talking about the breath has consciousness. And this may be a new concept. Even if you've been breathing and meditating, for a long time, I don't hear a lot of people talking about the consciousness of the breath. But I am, the light of the breath, is a powerful consciousness that's essential to all life. And breathing with intention allows you to develop a relationship with the breath and with the consciousness of the breath. That exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide within our cells is connected to the plant kingdom's exchange of carbon dioxide and oxygen. It's also connected to the breathing cycles of the earth as she inhales spring, holds in summer, and exhales autumn into the empty stillness of winter. We are truly one breath in different rhythms and octaves, receiving and releasing the pulse of life. The breath is the pulse of life, and it moves like an infinity wave. So I'd like you to keep infinity wave image in your mind. Just think of a horizontal figure 8. I began to consciously use the breath as a carrier wave for intention. And then one day I met the consciousness of the breath at the end of an exhale. It was in that still place between in and out. So after you exhale, before you inhale again, that still place is very, very rich. So with a feeling of trust, willingness, and receptivity, I received a breath, as opposed to unconsciously just taking a breath. But when I began breathing this way, I was able to create a relationship with the consciousness of the breath. Every day I did the same sort of 10-minute morning meditation. I was playing long tones on my horn, and this practice trained and strengthened both my chops, and my lips, and my breathing. So it's something that musicians do, especially wind players. They will play long tones to strengthen their embouchures. Well, it was a win-win because I got to strengthen my chops and my breathing, and I got to meet the consciousness of the breath at the same time. I was playing these harmonic chords and sustaining them, and they sent me into meditation. Those chords boosted my immune system to the point that I could fight off colds and flu viruses with ease, as evidence between yesterday and today. I recorded a harmonic audio file to boost the immune system. By the way, it's on my website. It boosts the immune system's response to infections. And the file can be downloaded from thesoundlady.com. You just listen to it about 10 minutes a day, and within a couple of weeks, you're going to notice a big difference in your ability to fight off anything. But working with the consciousness of the breath, using intention, creating health-enhancing harmonic chords, was a powerful and fun daily practice for me. I want to tell you the story of about when I first began to work with the consciousness of the breath. And as I pondered the pulse of life as an infinity wave, that's how energy moves, there seemed to be an opportunity to exchange more than just the breath. Why not exchange consciousness? Why not send intention on the breath to the I am, the light of the breath's consciousness? So as I received a breath, I told the consciousness of the breath that it was the initiator of the sound and the carrier of the sound. And without the breath, my lips would not be vibrating. The sound would not happen. I am the light of the breath did not know that about itself. This infinity wave image is very helpful here. The breath, the flow of air, caused my lips to vibrate, and then the breath carried the vibration into the horn. The sound was made and sustained until the breath ran out. So as I mentioned earlier, the breath is the pulse of life. It moves like an infinity wave. After the breath is exhaled, at the end of the exhale in that stillness, it regenerates the energy and then returns until we automatically inhale to receive another breath. So as we prepare to experience the sound of an octave, let's first focus on our breath to begin to develop a relationship with the consciousness of I am the light of the breath. And because when I'm playing these sounds for you, these octave sounds for you on the horn, I want you to hum along. And that means you're going to have to take a deep breath so that you can sustain that hum. If you can only sustain a sound for 2 or 3 seconds, it's really not going to make much of a difference to your health or well-being. You have to be able to sustain it for 10, 15 seconds to create a pattern that the brain can recognize and work with. So here's a good breathing and grounding meditation exercise that I like to do, and feel free to play along here. So first, get yourself seated in a comfortable space with your feet on the floor and your spine nice and straight. And instead of taking a breath, receive a breath through your nose and hold it in your lungs, being aware of the exchange of energy that is taking place. And then exhale silently through the mouth on. Let's do that 3 times. Receive the breath through the nose. Hold it in. Be aware of the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. And exhale. One more time. Receive the breath. Hold. Acknowledge the exchange. Exhale. Next, we're going to breathe through the nose. Inhale, hold it in the lungs, and hug it gratefully with your ribs. And exhale the love and gratitude carried on the breath with that audible ha. So receiving through the nose, holding it in the lungs and hugging it, loving it, being grateful, and exhaling the love and gratitude back to I am the light of the breath. Again, receive the breath through the nose. Hold it in your lungs, gratefully give it a hug and love it on the exhale. Next, we're going to receive the air and consciousness of the breath through your nose, hold it in your lungs, and then forcefully exhale on the sound of letting your shoulders drop, sending the energy into the earth. So it's receiving, and then letting the shoulders drop and sending that energy into the earth. Let's do that again. Receiving through the nose. Receiving through the nose. One more time through the nose. And now that you've connected your breath to the earth, inhale up from the earth the love and support that is carried on the breath up the spine. Inhale up from the earth and then exhale out the top of your head, seeing a golden light sparkling waterfall shooting out and back down to the earth, completing a full circuit. Inhale up from the earth. Exhale out the top of your head. Watch that waterfall of golden light go back down to the earth. And then lastly, inhale up from the earth to your heart chakra and exhale out of the heart chakra. Hopefully now we're in a nice grounded space and connected more consciously to our breath. Okay, so now moving into the experience of the sacred sound interval of an octave using our own voices and ears. So I'm going to play the octaves of each of the 12 notes of the scale. They're going to play for about a minute and a half each. We'll take a little break. You can jot down your responses to it, whether you liked it or not, if you felt anything, and then we'll go on to the next one, and we'll do all 12 of the different notes. I'm going to play the low note and sustain it simultaneously, singing the octave above the note that I'm playing with my voice. And all you need to do is receive the sounds and hum along consciously, using your breath to initiate and carry the sound into your body as your bones will conduct the sound within you. All right. So, first, here is C. Now, I've recorded these the other day, so I didn't have to play them live. So, everybody ready to listen to the octave of the note C. First, let me tell you what the note C symbolizes. The note C, in terms of emotion, is about your self-power. It's about your ego. It's about your ability to self-direct when your life is threatened. A person with a lot of the note C in their voice is a leader. There's a lot of excitement. They're very physically motivated people. The note C, on the physical realm, has to do with large, thick muscles, like the heart, and gross circulation, large blood vessels, and it also has to do with female reproduction. So those are the correlations for C: self-power, ego, large, thick muscles, the heart, female reproduction. So as you're listening and humming along, and I want you to hum and keep your mouth closed as you hum so the vibrations can go inside of you. All right, here comes the octave of the note C. Just let that sink in for a bit. If you have a piece of paper and a pencil next to you, you might write down if you had any responses to it. And then we're going to move on to C sharp. Here we go. Again, for another minute and a half, take a deep breath, hum along, using your breath consciously. Oh, C sharp, the correlations are someone who has a lot of C sharp in their voice is someone who is a champion of justice, who's really invested in fair play. They can be very hard on themselves, and they can be hard on others as a cover. C sharp in the physical realm rules tendons, ligaments, tissue linings, circulation of digestion, and the bowel. I do have an audio file on my site, The Sound Lady, that really helped with constipation, as C sharp deals a lot with the bowel. So tendons, ligaments, the bowel, circulation of digestion, champion of fair play, someone who can be hard on themselves. This is the note C sharp. So take a deep breath to hum along. Here we go. Oops, that's the wrong one. Time out. I didn't hit the D flat. C sharp. Here we go. Taking a while to open. Come on. The computer is having a little brain fart here. Here we go. Let that sort of sink in and assimilate for a few seconds. Write down any reactions and responses you might have had to it. And we're going to move on to the note D, which emotionally is all about self-approval. Someone who has a lot of D is often a caretaker, but they expect reciprocation. They like to organize and examine and fix things and people. In terms of physicality, D, the note D is about the liver, the gallbladder, digestion of the pancreas. It's about appetite and the production of enzymes and hormones. So you could use the D, and these are just a few of the things that these things stand for, but we got to start somewhere. So here we go with octave of the note D. right. Sink in for a bit. My friend told me we should have at least a minute of silence after this, and I thought, you can't have a minute of silence on the radio. A few seconds will have to do. Write down any impressions you had of that note. Now moving up a half step to the next note, which is D sharp. People with a lot of D sharp are information brokers, not apt to share their real self very easily. And they like to use a narrative, words, to teach. They not necessarily teach by example, but they like to use stories and words as a teaching tool. D sharp in the physical realm is about cellular oxygenation, the transport of minerals and oxygen to the eyes and the muscles. So this is very intricately involved with breathing here. D sharp. So here comes the octave of the D sharp. Don't know if you can hear the extra harmonic of the other D sharp that's coming in high. I'm not singing and I'm not playing on the horn. It's there. So that was D sharp. Write down any responses you might have had to that. We're going to move up a half step now to an octave of the note E. And first I want to tell you about the note E. The note E is also about self-approval issues. And this is E is a person who uses words to convey their messages and meaning and appreciation. Let's see, for example, if a person doesn't have a lot of the note in their voice pattern, they are probably shy. They don't like to do public speaking or talk in front of people because the energy of that note E hasn't been energized. In terms of physicality, the note E is about wet, moist tissues, the lungs, the eyes, the nose, bronchial structures, the diaphragm. So here is the note E. That is the note E. And now I'd like to introduce you to octaves of the note F. A person with a lot of the note F in their vocal pattern is a planner, someone who can plan, someone who has the ability to see flaws in plans. And it's part of the balance between your perception and action, what you think you should do and what you actually do. And then the kidney, in terms of physicality, the note F in terms of physicality, is the organ of the kidney and the bladder. So if you have kidney and bladder issues, F will be your friend. It's also about environmental allergies, the prostate and male reproduction. It's the sounds for the lower back. So let me now play for you the note F in an octave. The note F. Write down any reactions you may have had to that. Maybe you didn't have a reaction, and that's just fine. Hopefully you're just enjoying the harmonics that grow as the sound is sustained. Now we have the note F sharp. And F sharp emotionally is the one who carries out the plans, the doer. They're intuitive about the needs of others, and they share love wholeheartedly. F sharp, in terms of the physical body, is about blood filtering and screening. It manages mineral balance, flow of fluids, and nutrients. So when you put F and F sharp together, you've got the kidney and the blood filtering and screening. F and F sharp, very powerful sounds for the kidney and the bladder. So now, here are the octaves of F sharp. That was F sharp, so we're halfway through the scale. Now on up a half step to the note G. People with a lot of G in their voice are game players. And they like to mix and manage the physical aspects of life. Physical space is very important to people who have a lot of G in their voice. They know where everything is in their space, and everything goes in a place. The note G, in terms of the physicality of the body, is all about neurotransmitters, so signal transduction, how the cells talk to each other. Neurotransmitters, the balance of minerals and enzymes in the bone matrix, and the balance of water. And so here, for your listening and humming pleasure, is the note G in an octave harmonic. The note G. Write down any reaction you may have had to that. And now we move up a half step to the note G sharp. Folks with a lot of G sharp are people who really want to make a difference in the world. They like to help and satisfy others. They're very hands-on. They're also pretty time-conscious people. G sharp physically is about resource management and storage. With C sharp, it retrieves nutrients from the bowel. So right now we're just talking about the individual notes, but when we learn how to combine notes together, we see what other systems of the bodies that they work with. So here comes G sharp. Let that sink in for a little bit. Now we're going to move up to the note A. Person with a lot of note A in their voice is a very spiritual person. They love to take care of the needs of others, but they interpret and they act from within themselves, from the spiritual space. The eyes, or the A in terms of the body, have to do with the eyes, electrical issues, non-physical issues, which are electrical issues, non-physical. It's about resource management and how your body ages. People with a lot of the note A are going to age very well. So here is the note A in an octave harmonic. And then, moving up to A sharp. People with a lot of A sharp are highly intuitive. They're able to read between the lines. They can put aside themselves for others. Sometimes they like mental games, but they hurt very easily, very sensitive. A sharp in the physical body rules the immune system and adrenal issues. With E, it's allergy related. A sharp is about body detoxification and the regulation of oxygen. So here to enjoy now is the octave harmonic of an A sharp. And last but not least is the note B. And B is the link between the self and the universe. It needs harmony and balance in personal life and occupation. B, in terms of physicality, is about subtle circulation, so teeny tiny little capillaries and teeny tiny little lymph vessels, all right? Subtle circulation. It's about the body-mind connection, small body mechanics, and nerves, also body magnetics. So here's our last sound, the octave of the note B. Well, I certainly hope you enjoyed that. We are just about out of time. I like to play the octaves of the individual notes to really give you a powerful experience of the note. If you just played the note by itself, that would sort of be one-dimensional. But when you add the octave to it, you get all of the sound that's capable within those two notes, and all the harmonics become possible.
So, Kathleen, just a couple things. In the future, I would suggest sending us those music files so we can play them in the system so they can resonate better and come through stronger. Number two, I'm just so dang curious. If you're able to stick around for a few extra minutes, why don't we take one call and see how that landed with the listeners?
Excellent. I'd love to do that.
Okay, let's do that. 617, we're coming to you. I think you've been there through the whole process. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, it's Ann from Boston. It was nice to listen to. I couldn't hold the notes myself because my breathing's a little labored, but it was calming and peaceful. And as I progressed in it, I could hold the breath a little longer.
Mm-hmm. It does. Humming long tones will strengthen your lungs. People who have any type of asthma issues, humming a long sound over and over again will strengthen the lungs.
Yes, I do have asthma.
Aha, so that's a good note for you. So
yes.
If you had, do you have a musical instrument at home, like a piano or a guitar? Or
no, nothing.
Your local music store will have something called a pitch pipe. And it's just that little round disc that the singers use to get their notes. You blow into the hole in the pitch pipe, and you could blow the note E on the pitch pipe and hold it longer and longer, and your asthma will get better.
Wonderful.
Thank you for calling in. Thanks for listening. I'm also in the Boston area. Maybe we'll connect.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. And so we've added some time to the clock so you won't get cut off, hopefully, here, and we can get you to do your wrap-up and some shameless self-promotion as well.
And shameless self-promotion. Well, the shameless self-promotion is that on my website you can get these notes, these harmonic audio files. There's ones for lymph, which is the note B, right? There's ones for digestion, the note D and its harmonics. There's one for constipation, which is C sharp and C together. So if you have any of these sort of system issues and you've tried everything else and you're tired of side effects, you can go to the soundlady.com, and under audio files for self-healing, pick out the audio file that will help you. Next week, I think I'd like to do a little more of this, so instead of the octave, we're going to maybe experiment with the perfect fifth and the perfect fourth and different attributes of these notes. But I think that's all the time we have for now, right, Nicole?
We are past the top of the hour. Yep, it goes by fast. But send us the note files. We'll play them in the switchboard next time. That might have more of a profound effect.
Yes, I will absolutely do that. Thanks for suggesting it.
All right. Well, it was fun. It's an interesting exploration. Very intrigued by this whole system. And thank you for bringing it forward and making it known to the News for the Solars. And we'll talk next time.
It's my pleasure. See you in a couple weeks.
All right. Kathleen, the Sounds Lady, all linked up at newsforthesoul.com. We're back with more right after this.